भक्तारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकम्। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपति गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगे राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यश्च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठभूतले श्रीमती भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनित नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य तारिणे नमः चिंतामणिः कृष्णाय चैतन्य रस विग्रह पूर्णः शुद्धो नित्य मुक्तो अभिन्नत्वाम् नाम नामिनो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत्। निगम कल्पतरोर्गलितं फलं सुखमुखाद अमृतद्रवा संयुतं पिबत भागवतं रसम् आलयं मुहुरहो रसिका भुवि भावुकः। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नष्टकी। सर्वस्य चाहं हृदये सन्निविष्टो मतः स्मृतिर्ज्ञानम् अपोहनं च वेदैश्च च सर्वैरहम् एव वेद्यो वेदान्तकृद् विद एव चाहम्। नानाशास्त्रविचारनैकनिपुणौ सदधर्म संस्थापकौ लोकनं हितकरिणौ त्रिभुवने मन्यौ शरण्याकरौ राधा कृष्ण पदारविन्द भजनानन्दाने मतलैकौ वन्दे रूप सनातनौ रघुयुगौ श्रीजीव गोपालकौ। सर्वशास्त्रब्धिपीयूषा सर्ववेदैकसत्फला सर्वसिद्धान्तरत्नाद्या सर्वलोकैकदृक्प्रदा सर्वभागवत प्राण श्रीमद्भागवत प्रभो कली दन्तोदित्य श्री कृष्ण परिवर्तिता परमानंद पाठ्या प्रेम वर्ष्या अक्षरायते सर्वदा सर्वसेव्या श्री कृष्णाय नमोस्तुते मे। मद एक बंदो मत संगिन मद गुरु मन मदधान मन निस्तारका मद भाग्य मद आनंदा नमोस्तुते। असौदो साधुता दैन अति नीचोचा ताकर हाना मुंचा कदीचिन मम प्रेमना हृत कंठयोः सुरा सर्व वेदांत सरम ही श्री भागवतम इष्यते तद रसामृता तृप्तस्य ज्ञान्यत्र स्यादरतिः कविचित् क्वचित् निम्न गानं यथा गंगा देवानाम् अच्युतो यथा वैष्णवानां यथा शंभु पुराणाम् इदं तथा श्रीमद्भागवतं पुराणम् अमलं यद वैष्णवानां प्रियाम् यस्मिन् परमहंसायाम् एकाम् अमलं ज्ञानं परं गीयते तत्र ज्ञान विराग भक्ति सहितं नैष्कर्म्याम अविश्रुताम् तच शृण्वान् सुपठन् विचारणा परो भक्त्या विमुच्येन नरः। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Shall I start, Prabhuji, now? 7:10 now.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, pranams. Please start off, Prabhuji.
Okay. You can see?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Just a minute. Okay. So today I'm going to talk about the presentation, the Queen Kunti Maharani's teachings or prayers by Kunti Maharani. This was missed by me of the module 1 as I was traveling at that time. So let us start now. So let me give you a background on why Queen Kunti Maharani was praying to the Lord. You are able to see the presentation? Okay.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
Prabhu.
Okay, thank you. So after the battle of Kurukshetra was over, Pandavas went to the Ganges to deliver water to the dead relatives along with Draupadi, and Lord Krishna was also with them. Lord Krishna and other munis tried to pacify Pandavas by citing that the stringent laws of Almighty and their reactions upon the living beings. After this, Lord decided to go back to Dwarka, and as soon as he seated on chariot to start for Dwarka, he saw Uttara running towards him in fear. And Uttara asked for protection from a Brahmastra which was fired by Ashwathama to kill the last successor of Pandavas, that is Parikshit Maharaj, who was in the womb of Uttara. So Uttara specifically requested to protect her embryo, and Lord protected by covering her embryo with his own internal energy. Even though Pandavas took their weapons, but they would have been not able to protect her or protect the last successor of Pandavas. Her embryo they could not have protected. So she went directly to Lord Krishna only. So now when after all this incident happened, so then Lord again started that let me go back to Dwarka. All my queens, my sons are waiting for me. So Kunti Maharani at that time along with her 5 sons and Draupadi addressed the Lord. And understanding everything what Krishna had done recently, Kunti Devi was unable to tolerate this separation and the agitation caused by the great respect that arose in her heart. And thus she began praising Lord Krishna. So let me move to the first slide. Namaste Purusam. It has gone bit up to. Kunti Vacha Namaste Purusam. Tvadyam Iswaram Prakrateha Param Alaksyama Sarva Bhutanam Antarbahir Avasthitam. So here Kunti Maharani is saying that, O Krishna, I offer my obeisances unto you because you are the original personality and are unaffected by the quality of the material world. You are existing both within and without everything, and yet you are invisible to all. You are existing everywhere, yet you are invisible to all. This is what Kunti Maharani is saying. Now Kunti Maharani here knows the Lord. She is Sarvagya, and she knows the Lord by Tattva. Like all the personal associates of the Lord, they know the Lord by Tattva. Okay, it is just not someone has told and they know what they know, they actually know the Lord. And such people are known as Tattvavetta. So she is standing in front of the chariot and offering her prayers as we do in the front of deities. Although Krishna was her nephew, but Kunti Maharani was quite aware that Krishna is not a normal human being, but he is the original personality of Godhead. Such an enlightened lady could not commit a mistake by offering obeisances unto her nephew only. Therefore, she addressed Lord as the original Purusha, who is beyond the material cosmos. She said Govindam or Adi Purusham or which means the original person. Okay, she said that I offer my obeisances unto you again and again. It is a similar way where we also say, like लूट लूट दधी माखन खायो, ऐसे भगवान को बारंबार प्रणाम है. It means that we offer our obeisances again and again unto the butter thief. Okay, this is not a normal thief, but the supreme personality thief. So Kunti Maharani is offering her obeisances. You are the origins of all God. Adi Devam Ajam Vibhum. Arjun also specified a similar thing during Gita Upadesh, that you are beyond the material nature. Then again he is addressed here as Ishvara, or the controller. The living entities or the demigods like Indra, Chandra, Surya, they are also up to some extent Ishvara, but none of them are the supreme controller or the supreme Ishvara. Only Lord is the Parmeshwara or the super soul who is beyond the material world. Kunti Maharani says, Prakrite Param. It means you and your Dham are beyond this material world, because your form is not material, it is Satchidanand. The material bodies on this earth are made of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. That is the Panchmahabhut. All the bodies of the 84 lakh species are made of this Panchmahabhut only. But the Lord's body or form is made of a different tattva, and it is called Satchidanand, which is beyond this Prakat word. In Bhagavad Gita 8.20, Lord says, परस्तस्मात् तु भवो अन्यो अव्यक्तो अव्यक्तात् सनातनः यः स सर्वेषु भूतेषु नाशतु न विनश्यति. About the world, he says that Lord says that yet there is another unmanifest nature which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and it is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. Next, Kunti Maharani says, Alaksyam sarva bhutanam antarbahir avasthitam. You are like that, antarbahir avasthitam. You are inside everybody and also present outside. Sarva bhutanam. Kunti Maharani knew that Lord was present before her, but he entered within the womb of Uttara to save her embryo also. And Kunti Maharani was herself puzzled whether Lord is all pervasive or localized. And then she says, even though you are like that, you are Alakshyam. You are not visible to anyone because of their ignorance. In fact, he is both all pervasive and localized as well. But he reserves the right of not being exposed to persons who are not surrendered souls. And this checking curtain is called Maya energy of the Supreme Lord. And it controls the limited vision of the rebellious souls. Now, if we want to see the Lord, then we have to approach a guru, a spiritual master, get knowledge from him, and by that knowledge we can see. That's why we see that Om Agyan Timirandasya, Jan-Jun Shalakaya. Timir is darkness, so the guru will give the knowledge to see the or understand the Lord. Up to some extent, we can do that. I'll move to next one. Anyone can read the shlokas?
Hare Krishna. Maya Javanika Chandam Agna Adokshajam Avyayam Na Lakshase Mudha Trisha Nato Natyadaro Yatha.
Thank you, Mataji. So Kunti Maharani next says, you being beyond the range of limited sense perception, you are eternally irreproachable factor covered by the curtain of deluding energy. You are invisible to the foolish observer, exactly as an actor dressed as a player is not recognized. So Kunti Maharani further says that Bhagwan is everywhere but cannot be seen. As in Bhagavad Gita 7.25, Lord says, Naham prakasah sarvasya yoga maya samavrata mudo ayam nabhijanati loko mam ajam avyayam. Lord says, I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent men. For them, I am covered by my internal potency and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. Further, the less intelligent persons are those who rebel against the authority of the Lord. Such persons are known as asuras. The asuras cannot recognize the Lord's authority. When the Lord himself appears amongst us as Ram, Narasimha, Varaha, Krishna, or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he performed many wonderful acts which are humanly impossible. Like he lifted Govardhan Hill. He lifted Govardhan Hill in a very, very simple way, like a boy picks up a frog's umbrella. It was nothing difficult for him. And he stood for several days continuously just to give protection to the residents of Vrindavan. Then he has delivered wonderful instructions in the form of Bhagavad Gita. He has shown marvelous capacities as a hero, as a householder, as a teacher, and as a renouncer. He is accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by such authoritative persons as Vyas, Devala, Asita Narada, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, Sri Prabhupada, and many others. And yet, there is a class of men with demoniac mentality who are always reluctant to accept the Lord as the supreme absolute truth. Who are such persons nowadays? Such persons are the modern scientists. They want to know everything by their experimental knowledge. But it is not possible to know the supreme person by imperfect experimental knowledge. He is described herein as Adoksaja, who is beyond the range of experimental knowledge. And why we cannot know by our material senses or by experimental knowledge? Because our senses are imperfect. In this verse again, na laksha se moodadrasa. So it means that just like in a drama company, some actor is playing a role. In another play, he will play some different actor's role, and so on, so on. So all such roles are completely different from one another, whether it is a makeup, uniform, clothes, style, dialogues, or anything. So anyone who continuously watches the movie, he will at once come to know, okay, he's the same actor who was in that movie, this play, that play. The actor is one, but he's displaying his art in different forms, like his costumes, body language, and many other things. We don't recognize the actor. This is the one, but this is the same actor or not. Similarly, Lord also fools all non-devotees, and they cannot recognize him. Next verse. Can anyone recite this verse?
Hare Krishna. Tatap Paramahamsanam Muninam Amalatmanam Bhakti Yoga Vidanatam Katam Pashyemahi Striyaha.
Thank you, Mataji. So Kunti Maharani is saying, you yourself descend to propagate the transcendental science of devotional service unto the hearts of advanced transcendentalists and mental speculators, who are puzzled by being able to discriminate between matter and spirit. How then can we women know you perfectly? So even the greatest philosophical speculators cannot have access to the region of the Lord, or they cannot know the Lord. It is said in Upanishad that supreme truth, the absolute personality of God, it is beyond the range of thinking power of great philosophers. He is unknowable by great learning or even by the greatest brain. He is knowable only by one who has his mercy. Others go on thinking about him for years together, yet he is unknowable. Param Hansanam Muninam Amal Atmanam means the people whose soul does not have dirt, their minds are pure. Only such people can know the Lord, whose minds are pure. Amal Atmanam. To understand this, we can take the example of a swan or a hans. Whenever a mixture of milk or water is given to the swan, he takes only the butter part of that, or only the milk part of that, and he leaves the water. It means that he leaves the unwanted things. Okay? Their wings, despite being in water, do not get wet. Swans therefore are considered to be pure, clean. And swans are in contrast to crows. Crows are always found near dustbin, trash, dirty places only. Whereas we find swans only in Mansarovar, where the water is very clear and the lotuses are blooming in Mansarovar. At such place, swans are found. So advanced transcendentalists are like the swans only. And how we can do that? We have to free ourselves from all the designations. One who is free from all designations that are related to the body, they are nirmal. Like in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya it is said, Sar upade vinirmuktam tat paratvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktir uchyate. Katham pasyema hi istriya means I am a woman. How can I know you when only Paramhamsas can know you? Queen Kunti Maharani says like this. So Srila Prabhupada also mentions that women in general are unable to speculate like philosophers, but they are blessed by the Lord because they believe at once in the superiority and almightiness of the Lord. And thus they offer obeisances without reservation. For this reason, only women generally assemble in great number in any sort of religious functions. So when our Bhakti Vaibhav class was going on, Prabhuji said, like when Kunti Maharani says that I am a woman, how can I know you? So Lord must have answered, but you are a woman and you know me and you are praying to me. Then why you are saying that I am a woman, how can I know you when only Paramhansas can know? So next verse. Can anyone read this verse? Anyone can read?
Yeah. Krishna Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Next, Kunti Maharani says, let me therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who has become the son of Vasudeva, the pleasure of Devaki, the boy of Nanda, and other cowherd men of Vrindavan, and the enlivener of the cows and the senses. So here, Go means senses. The one who gives pleasure to the senses is Govind. Go means cows also. The one who gives pleasure to the cows is Govind. And Go means Mother Earth also. So the one who gives pleasure to the Mother Earth is again Govind only, no one else. So Lord has given pleasure to the residents of Vrindavan by giving them darshan for many days continuously for 24/7 days when he lifted Govardhan hill. This happened, as you all know, when Indra had released some of the clouds and sent them to Vrindavan to drown the villages and the people of villages. And as a response to this deed of Indra, Lord Krishna lifted the Govardhan mountain to give the shelter of everyone, all the living beings of Vrindavan. At that time, the villagers had a better life than never before. Why? Because they could see Krishna for all the 24 hours of the day. Whereas normally they used to see Krishna only for 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening. But now they could see Krishna for all the complete 24 hours. Even Krishna's parents used to also say, like, why do you have to go to forest? You can just stay at home. Even in the evening, the Gopas were not happy as Krishna had to go back to his home. And the friends had to go back to their home. But due to the rain that was caused by Indra, everyone could see him for 24/7. Okay. Srila Prabhupada also writes in purport like Kunti Maharani specifically adores the incarnation or descent of Lord Krishna above all other incarnations. Because in this particular incarnation, he was more approachable. In the Ram incarnation, he remained a king's son only from his childhood. But in the incarnation of Krishna, although he was the son of a king, he at once left the shelter of his real father and mother, that is King Vasudeva and Devaki, Just after his appearance, he left the shelter of his parents and went to the lap of Yashoda Mai to play the part of an ordinary cowherd boy in Vrajbhumi, Vrindavan, which is sanctified because of his childish pastimes. Therefore, Lord Krishna is more merciful than any other avatars, or more merciful than Lord Rama. But Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mai are more fortunate because they could release the Lord's childhood pastimes, which are more attractive than all other pastimes. And there is no parallel to his childhood pastimes as, as exhibited as Vrajbhumi. And these pastimes are in fact replicas of his eternal affairs in the original Krishna Lok, which is described as Chintamani in the Brahma Samhita. Okay. Can anyone read the next verse?
Hare Krishna. Namah Pankajanaಭಾಯ Namah Pankajamaline Namah Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangaye.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So here Kunti Maharani is saying, my respectful obeisances are unto you, O Lord, whose abdomen is marked with a depression like a lotus flower, who are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers, whose glance is as cool as the lotus flower, and whose feet are engraved with lotuses. So there are some specific symbolical marks on the spiritual body of the personality of Godhead, which distinguishes his body from all others. They are the special features on the body of the Lord. The Lord may appear as one of us, but is always distinct by these special features. Kunti Maharani prays to Krishna as Pankaj Nabhaya. Pankaj means lotus flower. The lotus that is born from the navel of the Lord, over which Brahma sits. The Lord's navel is very large. The garland that the Lord is wearing is made from the lotus flower. Okay. So when Kunti Maharani is praying, Lord is wearing lotus flower garland, but Krishna wears many different type of garlands of different flowers. So whenever we are praying or someone is praying, then he will have to pray to the Lord depending upon which garland he is wearing. Like if he is wearing Vaijanti flower garland, then we cannot say Nama Pankaj Maline. Sometimes he also wears one mala. What is one mala? The Gopas will take leaves and flowers from here and there and make them into a beautiful garland out of love for Lord Krishna. Then we will have to say one Maline. So first we should see on what garland he is wearing and then pray accordingly. When Kunti Maharani was praying, the Supreme Personal Godhead was wearing lotus flower garland. Namaha Pankaja Netraye means your eyes are also like the lotus petal. When the lotus blooms, your eyes also brighten. Namaste Pankaj Angre, and the lotus feet, which are as soft as lotus petal. So all the 7 limbs of the Lord has been compared to lotus flower. Lord's beauty is just like lotus. He is as soft as lotus and also as sweet smelling as lotus. I just read one instance also that I will say here. So when Vishwamitra came to take Ram and Lakshmana, King Dasharath replied that they are Anshodasha Varshiya, which means that Ram and Lakshman were 15-year-old. And as evening approaches, Ram and Lakshman eyes start closing like a lotus. Dasharath Maharaj also added that in the evening, the demons start appearing and Ram and Lakshman have to stand guard. But these boys are Rajiva Lochana. That is, by 7 o'clock, just like the closing of a lotus flower, their eyes also start to close. So Rajiv Lochan means as it comes closer to evening, the lotus tends to wither. So as it comes to evening at 7 o'clock, their eyes also start to close. So again, Ram and Lakshman eyes are also compared to lotuses only, Rajiv Lochana. Sri Prabhupada mentioned that Srimati Kunti Maharani claims herself unfit to see the Lord because of her being a woman. This is claimed because women, Sudras, Dijbandhus, or the rich descendants of the higher classes are unfit to see the Lord or understand the transcendental subject. Okay. Such persons, although they are unfit to enter into the spiritual affairs of the Lord, can see him as Artha Vigraha, who descend to the material world just to distribute favors to the fallen souls. All such forms of the Lord are always decorated with garlands of lotus flower. One should begin to see the Lord. Now, Prabhupada also mentioned how we should see the Lord. So, one should begin to see the Lord from his lotus feet, gradually rising to the thighs, then waist, then chest, and then face. One should not try to look at the face of the Lord directly, without being accustomed to seeing the lotus feet of the Lord. Srimati Kunti Maharani, because of her being aunt of the Lord, did not begin to see the Lord from the lotus feet, because the Lord might feel ashamed, and thus Kunti Maharani, just to save a painful situation for the Lord, began to see the Lord just above the lotus feet. That is, from the waist, then gradually rising to the chest, face, and then down to the lotus feet again. So this formed a circle, and in this round, everything there is in order. Okay. So here, I was listening to somebody's lecture, and they said that why Lord is always compared to lotus flower only, not to rose. Rose is also beautiful. It is smelly also nice, but Lord is always compared to lotus only, nothing else. So that in that lecture I got the answer also. They said that the rose or any other flower that is created by Brahma during the secondary creation, but lotus is the only flower that was created by the Lord only, because it came out of the navel of the Lord on which Brahma was sitting. Others are created by Brahma. So therefore, Lord is always compared to lotus only, and nothing to any other flower. Okay. Can anyone read this verse?
Hare Krishna.
Sorry.
यथा ऋषिकेश कलेन देवकी कंसेन रूढातिचिरं सुचार्पितम् विमोचिताहं स च सह आत्मजा विभो त्वयैव नाथेन मुहुर्विपद्गणात् ईशान् महात्मे पुरुषाद दर्शनात् असत्सभाया वनवासकृच्छ्रुतः मृदे मृदेनेकमहारतास्त्रो द्रौणीस्त्रश्चाश्मा हरे अभिरक्षिताः.
Thank you, Mataji. Very nice. Okay, it means Kunti Maharani says, O Rishikesa, master of the senses and lords of the Lord, you have released your mother Devaki, who was long imprisoned and distressed by the envious King Kansa, and me and my children from a series of constant dangers. Next, Kunti Maharani says, my dear Krishna, your lordship has protected us from poisoned cake, from great fire, from cannibals, from vicious assembly, from sufferings during our exile in the forest, and from the battle where great generals fought. And now you have saved us from the weapon of Ashwatthama also. The villainous Kansa, in fact, had locked Devaki and Vasudeva for a long time in the prison. Devaki was filled with sadness and worry. But as you freed Vasudeva and Devaki from their hardship and problems, so you have also done the same for my children also. Queen Kunti also goes on to specify the incidents wherein a poison cake was given to Bhima, and when they had to stay overnight in the Lakshagriha or the wax house and were allowed to escape safely from there by Lord's mercy. The Lord saved Draupadi also by supplying an immeasurable length of cloth of sari when Duryodhana's parties were trying to disrobe her and they failed in doing so. When they were exiled in the forest, Bhima had to fight with a man-eater, demon, that is Hidamba Rakshasa. But then he was saved, or he could defeat him by Lord's mercy only. Even during the war, Lord has saved our children from all the weapons of the opposition's great warrior. Even now, Lord has saved King Parikshit from a Brahmastra released by Ashwatthama. So Srila Prabhupada writes here that Kunti Devi was shown far more favor because Lord Krishna did not save other children of Devaki, whereas he saved the children of Kunti Devi. This was done because Devaki's husband Vasudeva was living, whereas Kunti Maharani was a widow, and there was none to help her except Krishna. The conclusion is that Krishna endows far more favor to a devotee who is in great danger. Sometimes he puts his pure devotees in such danger because in that condition of helplessness, the devotee becomes more attached to the Lord. The more the attachment is there for the Lord, the more success is there for the devotees. So he is the savior of all of them. Can anyone recite the next verse?
Hare Krishna. Vipada santata chashvat tatra tatra jagat guru bhavato darshanam yatsyat apunar bhava darshanam.
Thank you, Mataji. So next Maharani says, Kunti Maharani says, I wish that all calamities would happen again and again, so that we could see you again and again. For seeing you means that we will no longer see repeated births and deaths. So during our Bhakti Yoga class, Prabhuji said that you could recite other verses to Lord, but it is very difficult to recite this verse. No one would like to say that I wish that all calamities would happen again and again. Even Kunti Maharani could have said that there are so many calamities, and she knew that he is the Lord, Supreme Personal Godhead. So she could have said, enough is enough. Please don't send these problems again and again. But instead, she told, keep sending trouble my way. So this is a very strange pair. And this is a very intelligent request to the Lord. Because only when we are in trouble, we remember the Lord in every possible way. But when we are in a comfortable position, no one tends to remember the Lord. With that sincerity, okay, with that bhava, only in trouble we come for a darshan. So there is a play on the word in the last line of the shloka, which means that we take darshan again and again, and we will not take birth in this material world again and again. When we take a darshan again and again, we will not take birth again and again in this material world. This is what the meaning of this verse, and then we will go back to Godhead. Why? Because this material world is a dangerous place full of calamities. Less intelligent persons prepare plans to adjust to those calamities without knowing that the nature of this place is itself full of calamities. They have no information of the abode of the Lord, which is full of bliss and without any trace of calamity. The duty of the sane person, therefore, is to be undisturbed by worldly calamities, which are sure to happen in all circumstances. In spite of suffering all sorts of unavoidable misfortunes, one should make progress in spiritual realization, because that is the mission of human life. In fact, the spirit soul is transcendental to all material calamities. Therefore, the so-called calamities are called false. From the spirit soul perspective, it is false. Whatever pains or whatever problems we are getting, we are getting only because of the body that we have. Can anyone recite this verse? Others? Hare Krishna.
जन्मैश्वर्य श्रुत श्रीभिर्येदमानमदः पुमान् नैवार्हत्य विधातुं वै त्वामकिञ्चन गोचरम्.
Thank you, Mataji. So Kunti Maharani says, my Lord, your lordship can easily be approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feeling. So there are also people who come to the temple, but in fact they don't come to the temple only. There are people who come to the temple without any sincerity, and there are few that don't come to the temple to see the Lord. These people can be typed as the people who have pride in the house or in their money. Like Prabhupada has also mentioned that when a pauper is proud of his penny, Means the poor man is proud of just 1 penny. He has just 1 penny, he is proud of that. So such are people who are proud of their money, of their income. People are proud of their richness, education, beauty. It is because of these prides that when they come to the temple and call out the Supreme Personal Godhead, they will not even try to look at the Lord. They will be looking here and there as if there is nobody. It is because of this pride increase and the person is not able to call out the Lord with the right feeling, that is right bhav is not there. Being materially advanced means taking birth in an aristocratic family and possessing great wealth, a good education and an attractive personal beauty. But the result is that by possessing all these material assets, one becomes artificially puffed up, intoxicated by such material possessions. Consequently, such materially puffed up persons are incapable of uttering the holy name of the Lord by addressing him with great feeling, like, oh Lord, oh Krishna, like that. They cannot address him. In fact, by uttering once the holy name of the Lord, the sinner gets rid of a quantity of sin that is unable to commit also. Actually, the Lord's holy name has such powerful potency, but there is a quality to such utterances also. It depends on the quality of feeling. A helpless man can feelingly utter the holy name of the Lord, whereas a man who utters the same holy name in great material satisfaction cannot be so sincere. A materially puffed up person may utter the holy name of the Lord occasionally, but is incapable of uttering it with with a good quality, with a bhav. Therefore, the four principles of material advancement, like high parentage, good wealth, high education, attractive beauty, are in fact disqualification for progress on the path of spiritual advancement. The material covering of a spirit soul is an external feature, like a fever is an external feature of an unhealthy body. And the general process is to decrease the degree of fever and not to aggravate it by maltreatment. Sometimes it is seen that spiritually advanced persons become materially impoverished. This is not any discouragement. On the other hand, such impoverishment is a good sign as much as the falling of the temperature of a body is a good sign. So the principle of life should be to decrease the degree of material intoxication and not to increase it. Grossly illusioned person is quite unfit to enter into the kingdom of Godhead. Then Kunti Maharani is also told, Tvam akinchana gocharam. Those who understand that they have nothing, even if in reality they have everything but possess nothing, which means these people have understood that everything belongs to the Lord. Okay, but only those who are niskinchanam knows that nothing is his and everything belongs to the Lord. Only their senses can see and smell or hear the Lord. Like in Bhakti Rasamad Sindhu, it is said, Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktir Uchite. The owner of our senses is the Lord, which is why he is known as Rishikesha. The senses are with us, but the owner is the Lord, and our senses should be engaged in the service of the Lord only. Only then we can gain the knowledge from our senses. Can anyone recite the next verse?
Namo kinchana vittayam nivritta gunavrittaye atma ramaya shantayam kaivalya pataye namaha.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So Kunti Maharani says, my obeisances are unto you, who are the property of the materially impoverished. You have nothing to do with the actions and reactions of the material modes of nature. You are self-satisfied, and therefore you are the most gentle and the master of the monists. So Kunti Maharani is paying her obeisances to the Lord and to the property of materially impoverished. Akinchana means impoverished. So there's one Isa Vasyam principle which is mentioned in Ishopanishad Mantra 1, ईशावास्यम idam sarvam yat kinchana jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjita yattamam santim rachati. It means everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one must not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. Okay. The one who knows this truth will know peace, otherwise he will always be in problem or tension. Nama akanchana vittaya means you become the property of the people who have understood that all belongs to you and have submitted everything to you. It is yours and we offer it to you. People with this attitude have nothing of their own, but you become their property. And I pay my obeisances to such a Lord. Srila Prabhupada writes that a living being is finished as soon as he thinks that as soon as there is nothing to possess. Therefore, a living being cannot be in the real sense a renouncer. A living being renounces something for gaining something more valuable. Okay, like a student sacrifices his childish proclivities to gain better education. A servant gives up job for a better job. Similarly, a devotee renounces the material world, not for nothing, but for something tangible in spiritual value. Like Sri Rup Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Raghunath Bhatt Goswami, and other Goswamis. They gave up their worldly pomp and prosperity, everything. For what? For the sake of the service of the Lord. At that time only they gave everything. Okay. Please read the next verse. Anyone can read the next verse, please.
Vande tvam kalamishanaam anadinidanam vibhum tamam charantam sarvatra bhutanam yanmita kalihi.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So Kriti Maharani says, my Lord, I consider your Lordship to be eternal time, the supreme controller, without beginning and end, the all-pervasive one. In distributing your mercy, you are equal to everyone. The dissensions between living beings are only due to social intercourse. So here Lord is said eternal time, Kala. So Kunti Maharani knew that Krishna was not a nephew or an ordinary person or ordinary family member. She knew that Lord was the primary Lord who lives in everyone's heart as a super soul, Paramatma. And Paramatma feature of the Lord is known as Kalam or eternal time. Eternal time is the witness of all our actions, whether it is good or bad, and thus resultant reactions are destined by him only. We do not know why and for what we are suffering. We may forget the misdeeds for which we may suffer at this present moment, but we must remember that Paramatma is our constant companion and he knows everything, past, present, and future. And because Paramatma, feature of the Lord, destines all actions and reactions, he is therefore the supreme controller also. Without his sanction, not even a blade of grass can move. The living beings are given as much freedom as they deserve, and misuse of that freedom is the cause of suffering. In today's world, whatever problems we see like COVID, tsunami, earthquake, it is because of misuse of the freedoms of people. Those who misuse freedom are put into miseries destined by the eternal Kalam. If we see, the devotees of the Lord do not misuse their freedom, and therefore they are the good sons of the Lord. Others who misuse freedom are put into miseries destined by eternal Kalam. The Kala offers the conditioned souls both happiness and miseries, and they are all predestined by the eternal times. As we have miseries uncalled for, so we have happiness also without being asked for. No one is therefore an enemy or a friend of the Lord. Everyone is suffering and enjoying the results of his own destiny. This destiny is made by the living beings only in the course of living or in the course of social intercourse. Everyone here wants to lord over the material nature, and thus everyone creates their own destiny under the supervision of the Supreme Lord. He is all-pervading, and therefore he can see everyone's activity. And because the Lord has no beginning or end, he is known as the eternal time or Kala. So that's what Kunti Maharani is saying here, that he is the eternal time, without beginning and end, and all-pervasive. Okay. Yeah, please recite the next verse.
वेद कश्चित् भगवान् चिकीर्षिताम् तवेहमानस्य नृणां विडम्बनम् न यस्य कश्चित् दयितोऽस्त्रिकर्हि चेत् द्वेष्यश्च यस्मिन् विषमामतिर्नृणम्.
Thank you, Mataji. Very nice. So Kunti Maharani says, O Lord, no one can understand your transcendental pastime, which appear to be human and are so misleading. You have no specific object of favor, nor do you have any object of envy. People only imagine that you are partial. So when Lord Krishna was visible on the earth to everyone could not understand or know that is Supreme Personality of Godhead. Many thought he is very strong, he is a very good warrior, he is very beautiful, he is like their son or their husband or boyfriend. Because his pastimes appear to be exactly like human beings, but actually they all are transcendental and without any tinge of material contamination. He is undoubtedly known as partial to his pure devotees, but in fact he is never partial. He can be compared to sun, as the sun is never partial to anyone. Similarly, Lord is also not partial to anyone, even though he is partial. It appears that he is partial to his devotees. Lord blessings are for everyone, but only fools deride this. In fact, pure devotees who are engaged in transcendental loving service of the Lord are not a mercantile community. There's no give and take relationship, nothing like that. They render service to the Lord without any desire in return for the services. In fact, there are many foolish people who think that devotional service is like flattering the Lord to get a special mercy. The pure devotee do not render any service to the Lord for exchange, like we mentioned, mercantile community, and therefore full mercy of the Lord is open for him. Suffering man, needy man, inquisitive person, and philosophers make temporary connections with the Lord to serve a particular purpose. And when the purpose is served, there is no more relation with the Lord. A suffering man, if he is pious, he prays to the Lord for his recovery. An example, a suffering man, if he is pious, he prays for a recovery to the Lord, but as soon as he recovers, there is no suffering, he forgets the Lord. So what Prabhupada is trying to say here that the mercy is open, the mercy of the Lord is open for him, but he is reluctant to receive it. And that is the difference between a pure devotee and mixed devotee. So again, Prabhupada also writes the impartiality. He has given an example of how the Lord is impartial, because it is said that the Lord appears to be partial to his devotees. So here Prabhupada gives an example. So when the Lord descends to this material world by his all merciful energy, he plays like a human being, and therefore it appears that the Lord is partial to his devotees only, but that is not a fact. Despite such apparent manifestation of partiality, his mercy is equally distributed. Somehow or other, if someone puts himself open in the sun rays, he is sure to get the requisite benefit both by heat and by ultraviolet rays also. Therefore, the conclusion is that the Lord is never partial. It is wrong for the people in general to think of him as partial. A very perfect example is given that in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, all persons who died in the fight before the presence of the Lord got salvation without the necessary qualification, because the death before the presence of the Lord purifies the passing soul immediately from the effects of all sins, and therefore the dying man gets a place somewhere in the transcendental abode. So this is a very perfect and a good example of the Lord being impartial. Anyone can read the next verse? Hare Krishna.
Continue, Prabhuji.
Yeah, please read, Prabhuji.
Janma karma cha vishwasman jasya kartura atmanaha yan nishisho dasho tada tada tadatyanta vidambanam.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. So Kunti Maharaj is saying, of course it is bewildering. Of course it is bewildering, O soul of the universe, that you work, though you are inactive, and that you take birth, although you are the vital force and the unborn. You yourself descend amongst animals, men, sages, and aquatics. And this is very much bewildering. So the transcendental pastimes of the Lord are not only bewildering, but they are apparently contradictory also. In other words, such activities are inconceivable to the limited thinking power of human being. For example, the Lord is all prevailing, super soul of all existence. And yet he appears in the form of a boar, amongst animals in the form of human being as Rama and Krishna, in the form of rishis as Narayan, and in the form of aquatics as a Matsya avatar, like a fish. Yet it is said that he is unborn and he has nothing to do. In Shruti Mantra, it is said that Supreme Brahma has nothing to do. No one is equal to or greater than him. But then he has manifold energies also. Again, everything is performed by him perfectly by automatic knowledge, strength, and activity. All these statements prove without any question that the Lord's activities, forms, and deeds are all inconceivable to the limited thinking power of the man. And because he is inconceivably powerful, everything is possible in him only. He will always be bewildering to our minds. A man expert in Vedic knowledge cannot understand Lord because he can be easily understood by pure devotee. But he can be easily understood by pure devotee. The devotees, therefore, know that although he appears among animals, he is not an animal, nor a man, nor a rishi, nor a fish, but he is eternally the Supreme Lord in all circumstances. Anyone can read the next verse, 31. There are others also. There are 11 participants.
गोप्याददे त्वयि कृतागसीदामतावत् याते दशाश्रु कलिलाण्डनसम्भ्रमाक्षम् वक्त्रं निनीय भयभावनया स्थितस्य सा मां विमोहयतिभिरपि यद्भिबेति. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you very much. So here Kunti Maharani is saying that, my dear Krishna, Yashoda took up a rope to bind you when you committed an offense, and your perturbed eyes overflooded with tears, which washed the mascara from your eyes. And you are afraid. You are afraid, though fear personified is afraid of you. And this sight is very much bewildering to me. So here in this verse, another explanation of the bewilderment created by the pastimes of the Supreme Lord is given. In spite of the Lord being the Supreme, he plays with his pure devotees. Lord's pure devotees render service unto the Lord out of unalloyed love only, and while discharging such devotional service, the pure devotees forget the position of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord also accepts the loving service of his devotees more relishibly when the service is rendered spontaneously out of pure affection, without any desire. Generally, the Lord is worshipped by the devotees in a reverential attitude. The Lord is meticulously pleased when the devotee, out of pure affection and love, considers the Lord to be less important than himself. The Lord's pastime in the original abode of Golok Vrindavan are exchanged in that spirit only. The friends of Krishna consider him one of them. They do not consider him to be reverential importance. The parents of the Lord, who are all pure devotee, consider him child only. And the Lord accepts the chastisement of the parents more cheerfully than the prayers of the Vedic hymns. Similarly, he accepts the reproaches of his fiancés more palatably than the Vedic hymns. when the Lord was present in this material world to manifest his eternal pastimes of the transcendental realm of Golok Vrindavan to attract people, he displayed a unique picture of subordination to his mother Yashoda Mai. So the Lord in his naturally playful activities used to spoil the stocked butter of Mother Yashoda by breaking the pots and distributing it to his friends and even to monkeys. Okay, monkeys of Vrindavan, who took advantage of the Lord's munificence. Mother Yashoda saw this, and out of her pure love, she wanted to make a show of punishment for a transcendental child. She took a rope and threatened the child that she would tie him up. Okay, such things are normally done in household also, other houses also. Seeing the rope in the hands of the mother Yashoda, the Lord bowed down his head and began to weep just like a child, and tears rolled down his cheeks, washing off the black mascara or ointment from his beautiful eyes. And this picture of the Lord is adored by Kunti Maharani because she is conscious of the Lord's supreme position. He is feared even by fear personified. Yet he is afraid of his mother who wanted to punish him just in an ordinary manner. Kunti Maharani was conscious of the exalted position of Lord, whereas Yashoda Mai was not. Therefore, Yashoda's position was more exalted than Kunti Maharani's position. Mother Yashoda got the Lord as a child, and the Lord made her forget altogether that her child was the Lord himself. If Mother Yashoda had been conscious of the exalted position of the Lord, she would certainly have hesitated to punish the Lord. The exchange of the love between Mother Yashoda and son was performed in a natural way, and Kunti Maharani, remembering the scene, was bewildered, and she could do nothing but praise the transcendental material love. So indirectly, Mother Yashoda is praised for her unique position of love, for she could control even the all-powerful Lord as a beautiful child. Okay, so this is a very nice verse. Please read the next verse. These three verses, please read.
Prabhuji, in
Yeah.
fact, our presentation time is actually over because presentation is supposed to be done within the given time limit. So I would request you to, you can finish the things as fast as possible actually.
Okay, because in fact I prepared.
Normally presentation agreed time was something like that, 45 minutes, and plus question answer section, 5-10 minutes like that.
Yeah. So
You can quickly, you can wind up the remaining parts.
okay, so I'll jump directly to the some important verses. Just a
Yeah,
minute.
better, yeah.
Then recite this verse 21 slide.
विशेषा विश्वात्मन् विश्वमूर्ते सखेषु मे मेह पाशमिमं छिन्दे दृढं पाण्डुषु वृष्णिषु त्वयि मे अनन्य विषया मतिर्मधुपते सकृत् रतिम् उद्वहता गंगा वेगं उदन्वती.
Here Kunti Maharani is saying, O Lord of the universe, soul of the universe, O personality of the formless universe, please sever my ties of affection from my kinsmen Pandavas and Vrishnis. Then Maharani also says that as Ganges forever flows to the sea without any hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. So here Kunti Maharani was thinking that Lord is leaving us, and because of after the battle, all our enemies have died. But then there are their sons and their relatives who are going to take revenge with us. So she was afraid of that. What will happen to my son? So she wanted that Lord should be with the Pandavas. But then the Vrishnis are also there, who are in fact from the maternal part of Kunti Maharani, from her home side. So she wanted that even those should be protected by the Lord. But that is not possible. Lord with Pandavas or with Vrishnis, So she was very much bewildered by these thoughts, and therefore she prayed to the Lord to sever my ties of affection from my kinsmen of Pandavas and Vishnus, both sides. Sever my ties of affection. So when ties of affection means what? There are normally feelings with every human being. Feelings of love, attachment, affection, those feelings are there. So she is in fact saying that sever the ties of the skin from my Pandavas and Vishnus. And whatever ties of affection will be with the Pandavas and Vishnus, it will be through the Supreme Lord only. This is what she is trying to say here. So yeah, she's saying to cut off the affectionate tie. And therefore all the partialities troubled the mind of Kunti Devi could be removed. Yeah. So when Kunti Maharani wanted to cut off the family relation, she meant to cut off the relation of the skin. The skin relation is the cause of material bondage, but the relation of the soul is the cause of freedom. The relation of the soul to soul can be established by the medium of the relation of the super soul. This is what she's trying to say. And she's also saying in the next verse that let my thoughts always be towards your lotus feet only. Always I should concentrate and think of your lotus feet only. Like the Ganges, they always keep on flowing to the sea. So my thoughts should always be keep on flowing towards you only. Like we say in Jagannath prayers, Neyanapatagami. So wherever my eyes goes, I should see Lord Jagannath only. Here and there, wherever my eyes goes. Always. Eyes are always going here and there. So I should see Jagannath. So similarly, as the Ganges water flow to sea, as the eyes goes here and here, I should always see the Lord only. This is what Kunti Maharani is saying here. Okay, so I will stop here then, Prabhuji. The next verse is the summary. Anyone can read this. This is the last verse. In fact, here it is said Shri Krishna Krishna Saka Vrishnim Rasbhavani Durga Rajanya Vamsa Dhana Ana Parvagya Dhana Ana Pavarga Virya Govinda Go Dvija Surirti Haravatra Yogeshwar Khila Guru Bhagwan Namaste. This is a summary verse. Kunti Maharani summary, giving a summary. O Krishna, O friend of Arjuna, O chief amongst the descendants of Vrishni, you are the destroyer of those political parties which are disturbing elements on this earth. Your prowess never deteriorates. You are the proprietor of the transcendental abode, and you descend to relieve the distress of the cows, the brahmanas, and the devotees. You possess all mystic power, and you are the perceptor of the entire universe. You are Almighty God, and I offer you my respectful obeisances. Hare Krishna. So we can go with the question answer.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thanks a lot for presenting today's your ending presentation.
Yeah.
It's nice actually. The Kunti Maharani prayers are so deep, so exhaustive. Only thing that you have crossed the time limit. Actually, now in presentation time limit given like something of 45 minutes. It's nice to listen on Krishna Radhashtami day. Anybody any questions? Otherwise, we'll fill up the forms. But I got one small this one, Prabhuji. Being a Radhashtami day, can you link any of the part of the prayers to the link to the Srimati Radharani?
Part of the prayer to the Radharani.
Yes, yes.
There is no difference between Radharani and Krishna. We should not differentiate between them. They are one and the same.
What I mean to say is any of the mood of the prayers, which is, something like that. I can link to the Radharani's mood.
Just a minute. all the prayers are by the Kunti Maharani, but Radharani's mood is in the, she also services, offers service to the Lord only, always.
Yeah, thanks, Prabhu. In fact, I was just thinking, then when he said, that Toimi Ananya Vishya Mate Ganga Vega, the sloka comes, my mind should totally focus on the, like in Ganga River, out into the oceans. So, like Radharani also, always her mood is like that, and she doesn't want to divert her mind anywhere else.
Yeah.
She should totally focus on the Radharani. So, it is the one part. The second part, which I thought, about the Yogeshwar Akila Guru. Guru is like a representative of the, the Radharani. Whatever service you do, it is offered to the Lord through Guru. Ultimately, Guru transferred to Guru Parapara, it will go to Radharani. Ultimately, Radharani gives recommended to Lord Krishna. So
Yeah.
this way, it's somehow, it's linked to the.
Okay.
Gopinath can have your own some points in this.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, I was not able to unmute myself. Hare Krishna, Radha. Thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. We wish you could go on more. Yeah, same thing what Muruga Prabhu mentioned, that the Ganges, how it flows towards the sea without stopping in between. That is the consciousness of Srimati Radharani. She is Krishna Mayi. She is always conscious of Krishna no matter what. So that is the shlokas we can relate on to Srimati Radharani. Of course, as Radhavindam Chandra Prabhu said, she is not different from Krishna. So everything that we glorify Krishna, she is included. She is never separate from him. But the mood is also displayed in this verse. Also, the second verse only that Prabhu said, what was it? Just forgot. Definitely, Tulsi Maharani is a great devotee and she is in the Aishwarya Bhav, even though she is Vatsalya Bhav tinged with Aishwarya. So she is glorifying Yashoda Maya in the more higher Vatsalya Bhava, in the mood of Vrindavan, spontaneous love. And we see the quality of Kunti Maharani. Although she is such a great devotee, she is always glorifying. She is glorifying other Vaishnavas. And that, I feel from Kunti Maharani's prayers, that is what we can take home message. That although she is glorifying the Supreme Lord to such an ultimate level where the saintly personalities glorify Kunti Maharani, she is to be followed in the footsteps of, because even in the greatest of dangers and calamities, she is taking shelter of the Lord. And on the Radhashtami day today, this can be one of our take-home messages, where Srimati Radharani is always thinking of Krishna, even in the lowest of all situations also. So this is what we can meditate upon through the prayers of Kunti Maharani, that how she is always surrendering to the lotus feet of the Lord and taking shelter of them. So, and also what Prabhuji mentioned about the lotus flower, it was very nice, Prabhuji. I heard it the first time actually, that lotus flower, because it was not created by Brahmaji, the Lord's limbs of his body are compared to lotus and not any other flower. So that was something very unique, very nice. Yeah. Thanks, Prabhuji. Thank you, Hare Krishna. And wishing a happy, blissful Radhashtami to each and every one of you. Hare Krishna.
Thanks once again, Radhabandham Prabhuji, for a nice presentation. We'll wind up this section. I request all the devotees to fill up that form. It's very important. Thanks a lot, Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpaka Vaishya Kripa Sindhubhyacha Patitanam Pavani Vishnu Namo Namaha. Shri Kantarashi Bhavatam Ki Jai, Radhashti Mahotsav Ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitya Gauva Shri Tanapani.